हेलो एवरीवन, वेलकम टू eMentor। अभी हाल ही फिलहाल 2020 यूपीएससी मेंस हैज बीन कंप्लीटेड, जिसमें जीएस पेपर 1 टू जीएस पेपर 4 कंप्लीट हो चुका है और एसए का पेपर कंप्लीट हो चुका है। इसी कंटेक्स्ट में हम ये सीरीज लाए हैं वेयर वी विल बी एनालाइजिंग ऑल द पेपर्स जीएस 1 to 4 and also the essay paper. We begin with the topic of essay. History is a series of victories won by the scientific man over the romantic man. अगर हम एनालाइज करें जो ट्रेंड यूपीएससी में अभी आ रहा है ऐसे पेपर का, इट इज ऑब्जर्व दैट अ स्टूडेंट इज एक्सपेक्टेड टू राइट ऑन अ कोट बेस्ड ऐसे। दैट इज वन कोट इज गिवन टू अ स्टूडेंट एंड इट इज एक्सपेक्टेड कि स्टूडेंट में इस पे 1000 से 1200 वर्ड्स का पूरा ऐसे लिखेगा। जब कोड बेस्ड ऐसे आता है तो स्टूडेंट्स को कुछ डिफिकल्टीज होती हैं। पहली डिफिकल्टी ये होती है कि हाउ टू मेंटेन द फ्लो ऑफ द ऐसे as well as how much can we differ from the code that has been asked. Therefore, in this context, we will be tackling all the problems that a student face. Now, if we begin with the topic, history is a series of victories won by the scientific man over the romantic man. जब आपके सामने ऐसा कोई टॉपिक आता है, then how do you think on the topic? जैसे भी आपके दिमाग में, जैसे ही आप ये टॉपिक देखते हैं, आपके दिमाग में कुछ क्वेश्चंस आ जाने चाहिए, जैसे कि what do we mean by romantic man? What do we mean by the scientific man? What are the examples of the topic? That is, history is a series of victories won by the scientific man over the romantic man. क्या कुछ ऐसे examples हैं जो ये बताते हैं that yes, history is nothing but a series of victories by the scientific man over the romantic man. Then सिर्फ example से काम नहीं चलता है. You have to also analyze कि why would a scientific man win over the romantic man. There has to be some reasons. Therefore ये टॉपिक दिया गया है। तो पहले कि रोमांटिक मैन क्या होता है, साइंटिफिक मैन क्या होता है, क्या ऐसे एग्जाम्पल्स हैं जहाँ पे हमने देखा गया है हिस्ट्री में कि विक्ट्री हमेशा साइंटिफिक मैन की ही हुई है, और अगर ऐसा हुआ है तो ऐसा क्यों हुआ है। आप अगर ऐसे क्वेश्चंस आप पूछते हैं तो आपके ऐसे में ऑटोमेटिकली एक फ्लो आ जाता है। आपका पहला प्रोसेस होता है दैट यू आस्क क्वेश्चंस ऑफ द कीवर्ड्स ऑफ द ऐसे टॉपिक। we've seen अभी तक we've seen that what is a romantic man, ये question आएगा what is a scientific man, or why does the scientific man wins over the romantic man, and what are the examples. Then you can also counter this. Is this understanding that the history is a victory won by the scientific man over romantic man always correct, or there can be other examples too? क्या ये वैसा वर्सा भी हो सकता है? ये भी एक क्वेश्चन दिमाग में आना चाहिए when you read this question, when you read this essay topic. Then क्या scientific man and romantic man will always be opposite in nature? आपने ये क्वेश्चन अगर पूछ लिया तो आपने अपने ऐसे के टॉपिक को एक अलग प्लेन पे ले गए हैं। जैसे कि आपका टॉपिक ये कहता है कि साइंटिफिक मैन की विक्ट्री होती है ओवर द रैशनल मैन, तो आपने एक तो ये इलेबोरेट किया, आपने इसके रीजंस भी पूछे, बट आपने एक काउंटर ये भी दे दिया कि जरूरी नहीं है ऐसा ही हो, रोमांटिक मैन भी साइंटिफिक मैन के ऊपर जीत सकता है। देन यू आर क्वेश्चनिंग क्या ये रैशनल मैन और साइंटिफिक मैन ऑपोजिट है? क्या हमेशा एक रैशनल मैन साइंटिफिक मैन होगा? क्या हमेशा एक साइंटिफिक मैन रोमांटिक मैन से अलग होगा? तो ये अगर आप पूछ रहे हैं तो आप अपने टॉपिक को अलग प्लेन पे लेके जा रहे हैं, एंड देन यू विल रियलाइज कि नहीं, ऐसा नहीं है कि दैट रोमांटिक मैन इज ऑलवेज इन अपोज टू द साइंटिफिक मैन। एंड इफ दैट इज नॉट द केस, then what can be done to promote both the romanticism and scientific attitude in a particular human being. Therefore आपका फ्लो आ जाएगा कि साइंटिफिक मैन क्या है, रोमांटिक मैन क्या है, कहाँ हमने देखा है कि साइंटिफिक मैन जीतता है रोमांटिक मैन से, क्या ऐसे और ऐसा क्यों होता है, क्या कुछ ऐसे एग्जाम्पल्स हैं जहाँ पे रोमांटिक मैन जीता है। देन यू ऑल्सो क्वेश्चन कि क्या ये दोनों ऑपोजिट होते हैं, एंड अगर दोनों ऑपोजिट नहीं है तो हम क्या कर सकते हैं कि एक आदमी में रोमांटिसिज्म भी आए और साइंटिफिक टेम्पर भी आए। ये जो हमने किया, दैट वाज द क्वेश्चनिंग पार्ट, wherein these questions, when you develop your essay via questions, you get a particular flow. But बच्चे फंसते कहाँ हैं? बच्चे ये फ्लो तो मेंटेन हो जाएगा, बट बच्चे यहाँ फंसते हैं कि किस पार्ट को मैं कितना वेटेज दूं, मैं क्या पहले लिखूं, क्या बाद में लिखूं, और मैं कितना वेटेज दूं। ये होती है स्ट्रक्चरिंग पार्ट। तो जो सेकंड डायमेंशन जहाँ बच्चे फंसते हैं, दैट इज द स्ट्रक्चरिंग पार्ट. So we will tackle that also. That is, you should know how much weightage should be given to what part. ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए that you are writing on what is a scientific man for 3 pages. You're writing on what is a scientific man for 2 pages. Then you have to be very brief while you are talking about the scientific man and the romantic man. So we will see now how do we structure our essay. सबसे important part जो essay में होता है जो कि आपका इंप्रेशन बनाता है, दैट इज योर हुक ऑफ द essay. The very first paragraph, the very first and second paragraph of your essay is the hook of the essay. uh, that hook can be either in the form of anecdote, can be either in form of a quote, जिससे आप ऐसे चालू कर रहे हैं. एक शॉर्ट स्टोरी एनेक्डोट हो सकता है, कोई कोट हो सकता है, या कोई दिल दहलाने वाला फैक्ट हो सकता है, जिस चीज को पढ़ के एग्जामिनर को लगे अरे मजा आ गया. दैट फर्स्ट पैराग्राफ टोन्स सेट द टोन फॉर योर एसे इन द फर्दर. तो जब भी आप स्ट्रक्चरिंग करते हैं, जब भी आप रफ वर्क करते हैं, यू शुड फर्स्ट एनालाइज द इनिशिएशन, कि आप क्या इनिशिएट करेंगे, कैसे इनिशिएट करेंगे, ताकि आपको एक प्लस एक्स्ट्रा मार्क्स मिलते जाएं. So this is about your initiation part of the essay. So first thing that you will always use while structuring is the hook of the essay. इसके बाद जब आपका एक हुक हो जाता है, जो कि एक स्टोरी हो सकती है, विच इज द मोस्ट इजिएस्ट वे टू स्टार्ट ऑफ एन एसे. हियर वी विल सी द स्टोरी आल्सो. आफ्टर द हुक, this is about a first and second paragraph. After the hook, you also have to analyze what is coming in your essay. तो जब आप ऐसे देख रहे हैं, आपने पहले एक हुक कर दिया, उसके बाद आप एक थीसिस लिखेंगे. ये थीसिस भी अगर आपके ऐसे एग्जामिनर ने पढ़ लिया, तो उसको समझ आ जाएगा कि आपके ऐसे में क्या आगे आने वाला है. तो बेसिकली फर्स्ट टू पैराग्राफ इज एनेक्डोट और योर कोट और समथिंग फैक्ट और analyzing the topic, and thesis is which tell your examiner ki what flow you are following. So when you're structuring the essay, first you attract, then you write everything that will tell your examiner what flow you have seen. That is this thesis part, and we will also analyze this thesis part in the coming video. Now, then we start off the essay with the questions that we had thought about. कि what do we mean by romantic man? ये आप एक पैराग्राफ के ऊपर नहीं लिखेंगे. और what do we mean by scientific man? ये आप एक पैराग्राफ के ऊपर नहीं लिखेंगे. तो आपका ये जो 1, 2, 3, 4, the anecdote, the thesis, what is romantic man or what is scientific man, this entire thing should be coming up in 1 to 1.5 page. So if I actually analyze, आपके एक essay में एक पैराग्राफ यहाँ होएगा, दूसरा यहाँ और तीसरा यहाँ. एक पेज पे आप 3 पैराग्राफ ही लिखेंगे. पहले 2 पैराग्राफ एनेक्डोट के, एक पैराग्राफ थीसिस का. अगर आपके एग्जामिनर ने फर्स्ट पेज पढ़ लिया, तो उसको समझ आ जाएगा कि वेदर यू हैव अंडरस्टूड द डिमांड ऑफ द टॉपिक, एज वेल एज उसको ये भी समझ आ जाएगा कि आपका फ्लो क्या है. इन द सेकेंड पैराग्राफ, in the second page, you are analyzing what is romantic man, you are analyzing what is scientific man. ये आपका 1 से 1.5 पन्ना हो जाएगा. देन जो हम फ्लो मेंटेन करना चाह रहे थे, दैट इज कि जो हम आप एग्जांपल्स देंगे, दैट हिस्ट्री इज अ विक्ट्री, इज अ सीरीज ऑफ विक्ट्री won by the scientific man over the romantic man. This is the main demand of the essay. As this is the main demand of the essay, you have to fulfill more than 50% of the pages that you will write by this, the examples as well as the analysis. Why do you think that the history is a series of victory won by the scientific man over the romantic man? So this would be the majority part, 5 to 6 pages of your essay. इसमें आप जब एग्जाम्पल्स दोगे, जब आप एग्जाम्पल दोगे कि हाँ ये जो विक्ट्री रही है, दिस इज द विक्ट्री ऑफ द साइंटिफिक मैन, डोंट सिंपली गिव एग्जाम्पल फ्रॉम द हिस्ट्री, give example from the social context, give example from the political context, give example from the other context, the ethical concept also can be bring. ये जो dimensions रहेंगे, that you are analyzing the political aspect, the ethical aspect, the historical aspect, the social aspect, this gives the broad base to your essay. So this is the main demand, and varied examples that you take takes your essay to the different level. Then in the next part, we are just discussing the structuring part. इसके बाद हम सारा context भी बताएंगे, हम आपको सारा content भी देंगे इस topic का. तो हम स्ट्रक्चरिंग ही देख रहे हैं कि कितना वेटेज किस पोर्शन को दे. हुक, एनेक्डोट, then we also said what is romantic man, what is scientific man, the main demand that how is history is a victory of scientific man over the romantic man, around 6 pages. And then you also move on as an antithesis, that is how history is not simply the victory of scientific man over the romantic man, but also some cases where the romantic man has actually won over the scientific man. ये बहुत ज्यादा नहीं करेंगे. 2 pages are more than enough. आपका मेन डिमांड ये है, तो इसको आप ज्यादा वेटेज देंगे rather than this part, which is the antithesis. The antithesis you can write in the 2 pages, 1.5 pages, which is more than enough. Then Moving on to the structuring, that how you take your essay to the altogether a different level, wherein you ask a question that how is scientific man and romantic man always opposite? Are they always opposite? The answer is no, because there is a scientific man behind every romantic man, and there are signs of romanticism in the scientific man. So scientific man में भी romanticism होता है और romantic man भी आगे जाके साइंटिफिक बन सकता है. सो ये जो पार्ट है कि ऐसा कोई ऑपोजिट नहीं है, डायमेट्रिकली ऑपोजिट नहीं है, ये आपके ऐसे को अलग प्लेन पे लेके जाएगा. Then, if that is the case, and you can write this in one page, more than enough, कि ये आपने dimension touch कर दिया. If that is the case, how do you promote both romanticism and scientific attitude? This also can be summed up in the one page. This can be a part of your conclusion too. So if you looked at, we started off with the quote. And if you looked at, we started off with a quote, right? Or we started off with an anecdote. Then we had this thesis wherein आपने पूरा एग्जामिनर को आप बता दोगे कि आपका फ्लो क्या है. Then आपने बताया रोमांटिक मैन क्या है, साइंटिफिक मैन क्या है, how is history a victory of scientific man over romantic man. But then you also said somewhat कि romantic man भी कहीं कहीं जीतता है. फिर आप बताते हैं कि दोनों ही एक इंसान में हो सकते हैं. And अगर ऐसा है तो how do you promote both romanticism and scientific attitude? You can use this as a conclusion. You will write this all in one page to 1.5 page. This is the main demand, 5 to 6 pages. This is about 2 pages. Here you can write one page, another one page. तो इस हिसाब से आपके ऐसे के आराम से 12 पन्ने बन सकते हैं. बट आपको ये ध्यान रखना होगा कि ऐसा नहीं कि आप इसी को ओवरस्ट्रेच कर लें, ऐसा नहीं कि आप इसको बहुत ज्यादा ओवरस्ट्रेच करें. आपका मेन डिमांड है ये वाला पार्ट, that scientific man is winning over the romantic man. And इसमें ज्यादा examples आने चाहिए, इसमें ज्यादा wide dimension आना चाहिए, इसके examples अलग अलग sphere से होने चाहिए, a political, economic, you have a social and the other dimensions. So what we have completed so far is understanding that how do you develop questions, and also understanding that how do you develop the flow. What flow will you follow, and what weightage has to be given to what part. That's what we have covered so far. Moving on. Before we begin this essay, you actually need to understand few words. तभी ही आप डेवलप कर पाओगे ऐसे. तो आपके कुछ वर्ड्स आपको पता होने चाहिए कि रोमांटिक मैन एक्चुअली है क्या. बेसिकली रोमांटिक मैन हैज कम फ्रॉम द वर्ड रोमांटिसिज्म. And Romanticism was basically a movement that was taking place in arts, literature. In your 18th century Europe, in the Europe, this Romanticism was a movement. ये Romanticism क्या करना चाह रहा था? वो इंस्पायर करना चाह रहा था क्रिएटिविटी को, सब्जेक्टिविटी को. That is, imagination was at the peak in the 18th century Europe. There was emphasis on emotion, individualism, literature, appreciation of nature, and there was a suspicion towards science and industrialization. So basically, it is all about the imagination part. So when you say a romantic man is a man who is focusing more on imagination. And what is a scientific man? A scientific man is a man who believes in rationality. उसके लिए कोई सब्जेक्टिविटी की कोई जगह नहीं है. वो रैशनैलिटी में बिलीव करते हैं, कॉज इफेक्ट में बिलीव करते हैं. उनका जो एटीट्यूड है ज्यादा लॉजिकल होता है, रैशनल होता है. ही एम्फेसिस ऑन द साइंटिफिक थिंकिंग, एंड देयरफॉर दिस साइंटिफिक thinking becomes the basis of the decision making. So that man is focusing on the scientific thinking, a logical way of thinking, and not at the imagination. So ये टॉपिक कहना चाह रहा है कि history has been a victory of a scientific thinking over imagination. That is the underlying topic. Then, so when we have understood few words, now we are moving on. What can be the hook, the anecdote, or the fact that will attract your examination? So, बहुत easy होता है एक short story लिखना. That is the anecdote. You have read history, you've read polity, you read newspapers. एक छोटी story तो आराम से बन सकती है in about 100 to 200 words. Taking consideration that you're touching the demand of the topic. Here, we are actually sharing a story of from your modern history. That is, how did there was a landmark victory in the history of India. We are taking one incident, the abolition of sati, and we are considering this as a victory in the history of India. So one of the landmark victory in the history of India was the abolition of the practice of sati. That is, a self-immolation of the widow on a funeral pyre of the husband. That a widow used to set herself on fire when her husband died. But there was a victory because of a scientific temper of one man, that is Raja Ram Mohan Roy. So we are saying that ये आपका thesis हो सकता है, ये आपका anecdote हो सकता है कि एक one of the landmark victory in the history has been that a victory over sati, and it was because of the victory. It is a victory of scientific temper. It is a victory of human rights. It is a victory of rationality over romanticism that both widow and husband would reside in heaven. So, एक romanticism इस practice को prevalent था कि both husband and wife they would meet in heaven. But the scientific temper of one man led to a victory, and this is a victory of what? It's a victory of human rights, of scientific temper, of rationality. And who was that person? Raja Ram Mohan Roy, a 19th century leader recognized to be the most rational man of time, advocated against the cruel practice of burning of widow and ensured the victory of scientific man over the romantic man. तो हमने एक प्रैक्टिस ली है सती की, जिसको बोला गया है ये एक विक्ट्री है of your scientific temper, and this is considered as the victory of scientific temper. Now, this can be a hook, this can be an anecdote. You can also start. You can also start with a quote, and this is a quote by Jodi Picoult. She's an American writer. You can use a quote. You can write about the American writer. The American writer said that logical thinking keeps you from wasting time about worrying, from wasting time worrying or hoping. It prevents disappointment. This is what logical thinking does. Imagination, on the other hand, only gets you hyped up over the things that can never realistically happen. So ये quote sum up कर रहा है कि yes, how logical thinking is much more better than imagination. You can start off with this quote and say that this has been seen across the history. You can start off with the quote and then use this one as your hook. Now, after the hook, I am moving on to the context of after the hook, I'm moving on to the content of thesis. Thesis यानी होता क्या है? What is thesis? हमने hook देख लिया कि आप hook कैसे बना सकते हो, anecdote की मदद से, quote की मदद से. अब इस hook के बाद आप ये देखो कि thesis क्या होता है. Thesis nothing but ये एक paragraph होता है. This is one or two paragraph which tells your examiner कि आपका flow क्या रहेगा आपके essay. एक एग्जाम्पल जो हम लिख रहे हैं ये आप ऐसा का ऐसा थीसिस कॉपी कर सकते हैं. आप ये एग्जाम्पल देखिए कि आप कैसे लिखेंगे थीसिस. आप लिख सकते हैं कि इन दिस ऐसे हम पढ़ने वाले हैं about the scientific man. हम पढ़ने वाले हैं about the romantic man. We will discuss about the scientific man and the romantic man and their attributes. Further, we will understand how throughout the history, scientific man has always bettered the romantic man with some examples and reasons. However, there are few cases of the victory of romantic man over the scientific man, and how in reality both these men are not exclusive of one another. So it is important to have both the streaks of scientific attitude along with ideal romanticism in a person, and concluding with how it can be promoted. So this is a paragraph which tells your examiner that what will be your flow, wherein you're saying that what we will be discussing in the essay. So ये एक paragraph होता है जो आप बताते हो कि आप क्या flow follow करेंगे. In this essay, the flow that you will have about the scientific man, about the romantic man, and their attributes, and you will understand that how throughout the history a scientific man has bettered the romantic man with examples and reason. And but there are few cases of otherwise also, and in reality, how are they not exclusive of each other? They both are. They can both can be the same person. So here, if your examiner know that what is the flow that you have followed in the essay paper. मूविंग फर्दर मूविंग फर्दर हमने हुक देख लिया, हमने थीसिस देख ली. अब हम आगे देखते हैं कि हम क्या एग्जाम्पल्स यूज कर सकते हैं. वेर हिस्ट्री इज अ सीरीज ऑफ विक्ट्रीज वन बाय द साइंटिफिक मैन ओवर द रोमांटिक मैन. आप क्या एग्जाम्पल्स यूज कर सकते हैं? हमारे अगर शुरू से हम एनालाइज करें तो हमारा ह्यूमन सिविलाइजेशन जो हुआ है, ह्यूमन सिविलाइजेशन is because we had the scientific thinking and not simply romanticism. And how do I say that? Uh, the control over fire. Initially, fire was considered to be a god, and it was said that it should not be touched upon. But then a man, through his scientific temper, learned to use and control fire, and this led to agriculture revolution. Your food production increased. So don't you think is nothing but a victory of scientific man over the romantic man? This can be a very good example. The second example that you can use from your history is the Dark Age, the example of the Dark Age. The reason Dark Age, or what's named like a Dark Age, was because there was a lot of romanticism that was going on and not scientific attitude. So dark age is considered to be a dark age. Because of this, you can give a heading like a journey of dark age to modern age is nothing but a victory of the scientific man over the romantic man. You can also have an example of Martin Luther King, who set the base for Protestant ethics. Martin Luther King questioned the idea of religion then, gave a scientific attitude towards the religion, and led to development of Protestant ethics. This is nothing but the scientific man winning over the romantic man. And this not USA. The USA and the growth, largest economy, is nothing but because of the victory of scientific man over the romantic man of that time. There is another example from science. If you look at Mangalyaan, the contribution of Madam Ridu Kardar, she gave, she actually took, if you would have watched the movie Mangalyaan, she basically took an idea of saving the fuel from, while there was some puris that were being fried. So she got an idea of fuel. This was the romantic idea that she got. But she did not stop there. She developed into a scientific idea, and India has won a victory of Mangalyaan. So this is also a history now. The history is a series of victory of a scientific man over the romantic man. Don't you give an example of women's contribution here also? You give the example of scientific contribution here. Then there are revolution, the defeat of Napoleon in the Waterloo. These are also the victory of the scientific thinking over the romanticism. So there have been enough examples for you to prove your point. Moving on to the antithesis part, that says that the power of imagination makes us infinite. It is the imagination that makes us infinite. It is said that a logic can take you from A to B, but imagination can take you anywhere. जहां न पहुंचे कवि जहां न पहुंचे रवि वहां पहुंचे कवि. That is nothing but imagination. So antithesis part जो आपको 2 pages में लिखना है, उसमें भी आप एग्जाम्पल ले सकते हैं. गांधी जी, the example of Gandhi ji, a romantic man, the man who developed his own ideas. Understand, the time when Gandhi ji was there, that was a time of World War. He had a romantic idea of non-violence, and his idea of non-violence led India become an independent country. That is the power of romanticism. All the scientific thinking was saying that we cannot win over Britain. But India did win over Britain and became an independent country. That is the power of imagination. That is the power of romanticism. We have a very good example in the form of I Have a Dream by Martin Luther King Jr., wherein he was a civil rights activist. And his romanticism inspired so many civil rights activists. And then we could see that USA gave equal right to the black as well as white. So your romanticism can inspire. There is no dearth to imagination. Imagination can take you anywhere. The basis for scientific thinking was inspired by romanticism. So antithesis can also be there in 2 pages, wherein you can take good examples that history में romantic man ने भी बहुत contribute किया है scientific thinking के लिए. So you cannot simply say कि हाँ scientific man ही सबके लिए responsible है. Moving on here. Then how do you move towards conclusion? That is, you need both romanticism plus scientific attitude. That's also said by Albert Einstein. to raise new questions, नई possibilities, पुराने problems को disregard करना, नए angle से सोचना, imagination करना. That what requires science में advanced रहना, that requires your creative imagination. So you cannot differentiate between romanticism and scientificism. Behind every scientific man is a romanticism. Behind every romanticism, there is a scientific man. Gandhiji, for that matter, can be considered both imagination, non-violence, but then scientific attitude be Britain had so many weapons. You cannot fight Britain using weapons. So you develop a new tool that is your non-violence. And it is a scientific method of thinking also. So towards the conclusion, you can say that yes, there is both streaks in a man. And then if there are both streaks, how do you actually incorporate both dimension of romanticism? How do you promote romanticism as well as scientific thinking? Here you take your essay to the education. Education can be a tool wherein you need both scientific temper as well as you need curiosity promotion. A very good example that can be linked from your current affairs is this one. The mobile-based learning using QR codes by Ranjit Singh Desle sir. His imagination for so many. So it is important to have both imagination as well as scientific thinking. We hope to bring you more such videos. I hope you like this video. Stay tuned to our channel, subscribe and share and like. Thank you.